if you're watching, I just want to make sure to know there is one show that I knew of with Power Rankings last weekend that didn't have Penn State or
Texas in it, yes.
In the top.
That was us. We caught some heat for it.
Yeah.
Well, to quote Major Payne, who's the dummy now? What is up, everybody? Welcome to Monday on Crain & Company. We've already dropped a video today. We dropped our Red River Shootout preview, which is a massive one. Dropped that earlier, so make sure you check that out. If you haven't, check out all the content we have. But since it's Monday on Crain & Company, we know that that's Power Ranking Monday, and that's what we're going to do today. And there's some movement, especially in the back end here, as we're getting ready for a Week 7 slate that is absolutely loaded. And the Power Rankings next week will probably look totally different than they do this week, but we're going to dive into it as usual with David Cohn, former Michigan quarterback, my brother, former Western State Colorado wide receiver, Blaine Crain. And guys, before we get into the rankings, would you say, and David, I'll start with you, that when we look at these matchups coming up this weekend, which we previewed a bunch of them already, this could be the biggest movement weekend that we've seen within the top 10 all season long?
Yeah, for sure, especially when you consider that some of these teams have already completed their schedules of non-conference opponents.
Yeah.
So now we're really moving into conference play, and I think that's where you're going to get not only a lot of movement nationally, but a lot of movement within the conference to where some of these teams are boxed out from their championship games and can, really need to rely on some sort of tie-break scenario to get in.
Which, God, I hope we don't get down to 7 tiebreakers at the end with some of these conferences, which we could.
I hope we do.
But Blaine, on that note, on the parity note, just because I don't want 7 different tiebreakers to determine who wins what conference or gets to play in the conference championship game, still today as we sit, heading into Week 7, I cannot remember a season, I'm talking about ever, since I've watched college football, that there has been this many teams that at this point we feel like can win a national championship. Not make the playoff, not just win their conference, but win a national championship. And that's one of the fun things about these power rankings is for the past couple of weeks, we're like, you can make a case 1 through 8, 1 through 9, that this is the best team in the country.
Yeah, it just feels like it's so wide open. Even with Miami playing the way they are and the way they look, I mean, it's turning into a type of season, which somewhat I enjoy, is each week matters so much, not only from a win standpoint, as just your team growing standpoint. Yeah. It's going to come down. It's one of those things that it kind of reminds me of, NCAA, the NCAA basketball tournament.
Yeah.
Right? You go through the year, it matters who is playing the best late. And the same thing kind of with what you saw with Ohio State last year.
Yeah.
I mean, right when you got on the playoffs, you started warming up and really saw that team come together and get better and better, and then just rode in the playoffs. So I think it's fantastic that we do have this parity, but still deep down, it still just kind of sucks not having that one team, that one villain, right? The Nick Sabans out there. You don't have that coach this year, and you don't have that team this year. So there's good. Sometimes maybe good, sometimes maybe shit.
Well, and to you, I want to get to that point when we get to 1 and 2, because I'm sure a lot of people can probably guess what our 1 and 2 is. It's pretty much like everybody else's 1 and 2. But there's an interesting argument, and you kind of hit at it, about who should be number 1 right now. I want to save that. I want to start with our first 4 out, or our honorable mentions, speaking about the NCAA basketball tournament. A couple new teams in here, a couple teams that have fallen kind of toward the back. Starting with a new team, Virginia, right here. You have your loss at NC State, which is not a great loss, not a conference game, which
Weird
is
enough.
Wild. We talked about that the other day. And I know that Florida State just lost to Miami and makes that Virginia win over Florida State look a little bit worse. But this Virginia team, man, you watch them with what Tony Elliott's been able to do. They're a quality ball. They're not tricking people. Mm-hmm. I mean, they look pretty balanced offensively. We can talk about the turnovers. I know there's some problems there. But this Virginia team looks a lot more complete than what I thought we were going to see by a long shot at the beginning.
They didn't fluke their way to a win over Florida State. Right. I think that's what was most impressive to me. Now, that win doesn't look quite as good now that Florida State has lost to Miami, but still, that's a great win. And I think that you brought up an important point. Yes, you lost to NC State, which is why you're in our honorable mention rather than being undefeated in our top 15, but not a conference loss because they scheduled that on top of their ACC slate. So again, back to my original point today, that doesn't hurt you in the ACC standings. So as we look right now, they're still atop of the ACC standings because they've played more conference games than even Miami, who I think we will all agree is our front runner in the conference right now.
100%. Blaine, the next team in here in honorable mention, again, we're not in the top 15, is Illinois. And you talk about just a weird 3 weeks. I mean, you go to Indiana, right? You get destroyed. Then you beat USC at home. You go on the road and beat Purdue. I don't think they played great defensively. Purdue's a little bit better, honestly, on offense than what I thought they would be. But when you look at this Illinois team, you're about to get a shot.
Yeah.
Another big shot. Because you've got Ohio State coming to the crib this weekend.
I mean, yeah, you could fix it all. It's just tough for me to rank Illinois. Look, they have a great loss in Indiana, but the thing about
But is it a great loss when you lose by 53?
It's a great loss when it comes about Indiana and what they look like this year as a team. But what makes the loss not great somewhat is got your ass kicked 63-10. So when you weigh it with the other teams who have great one losses, like the Vanderbilts, or you can go through it, it's just so much different to me when you get beat by 50 against Illinois. But the great news is it could all be fixed, guys.
Yeah.
It could all be fixed this week because you have Ohio State at home. Last time I looked at it, it's a minus 15-point spread. Then after that, it's not terrible. I mean, probably the toughest team you'll have left on your schedule is at Washington. So, I mean, if anything, Illinois could lose this game to Ohio State. If you keep it close and you run the rest of your schedule, I mean, you're sitting 10-2 with losses to Indiana and Ohio State.
Not enough.
Not enough?
Well, if
they lose to Ohio State by a touchdown.
No.
Well, see, I think that's why that
because
Indiana
the appeal, and this is coming from someone who put it in the
playoff.
Playoff.
Yeah.
I'd like to be right, but the appeal was the schedule, right? The appeal was the schedule. And again, in the NFL, this isn't a problem. The Dallas Cowboys could lose to the Giants by 60 points. You either win your conference or you get a wild card spot. It's objective. Yeah. In a sport where it's subjective at the end of the year, to me, you can't lose 63-10, and you lost to the two best opponents you played and still have a case to make the playoff.
And really, the only way that you could fully wash that taste out of your mouth of getting beat that bad is, yes, to beat Ohio State. But if you find a way to beat Ohio State and then Oregon beats Indiana, well, now you're sitting there back tied with Indiana for the amount of Big Ten losses, I believe, even though they have the tiebreaker, and we can look at the rest of those schedules. Then it would get really, really interesting.
Okay, one follow-up to that. Not only, let's say you beat the Buckeyes, okay, and Indiana beats Oregon.
Oh, that's...
Now, if you suffer another loss,
for sure,
that's a different 10-2 then.
Well, and that 63-10 looks about as good as the 63-10 loss could ever look. It's a good point. All right, our last two that are honorable mention, David, your alma mater with Michigan. Again, you can make an argument. Michigan has one of the best losses in the country on the road at Oklahoma, who's been in the top 10 pretty much the whole season for us at this point, even though, man, they just did not look great against Wisconsin, did not look polished against Wisconsin. And these Biff Poggi, kind of that inside fastball problem of, we play looser with him. It's not getting any quieter after that.
No, it's not getting any quieter. I think the best comment I've heard on this was from you when you said, hey, a lot of times the fun uncle is just more fun to hang out with, but sometimes the state takes you away and you go live with them.
Yeah.
But
you haven't eaten in 3
I'm not advocating
except
that.
sour straws.
I'm not advocating that. Like you said, if you're a Michigan fan, you're rooting hard for Oklahoma and Red River because 100%. Oklahoma has looked good. They rank number 1 in almost every defensive category this year with Brent Venables calling that defense, and there's a reason why Michigan struggled on the road. You watch them against Wisconsin, and this is a Wisconsin team I saw in person at Alabama. They're not great, but they are pretty good against the run, and Michigan still rushed for 170. There's a lot to like about the Michigan Wolverines. There's a lot of questions about the Michigan Wolverines. What better opportunity to go to Los Angeles, face Southern California, a team you rushed for 290 against a year ago, when Alex Orji threw 13 passes for 34 yards, and you beat them by 3 points. Go and beat USC, and I think they'll make our top 15 a week from now.
100%. Especially, and again, look, talk about that USC loss to Illinois. I think this USC football team is, I still haven't made my mind up 100%. I like my Abba.
I mean, they're Lincoln Riley.
It's the same thing. Like, I'm tired of seeing the same thing.
Yeah.
And we've talked about that ad nauseum. All right, last one of honorable. Oh, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say this. All right, I mean, if you really look at Michigan right here, if you lose to Ohio State, say you lose to Ohio State by 13 or 14, I mean, is that good enough to make the playoffs?
I think 10-2 Michigan is in.
With losses to Oklahoma and Ohio State, and really probably not I mean, we'll see if Washington is ranked by the time they get there. But if the rest of these teams don't stay ranked, that's enough.
You're riding that fine line we just talked about against Illinois, but to me, and it shouldn't matter, but it does, Michigan's a bigger brand. The question is, if they lose to the Buckeyes, like you're saying, do you lose 63-10?
Yeah.
Because that's the question.
Yeah,
you lose 63-10 to the Buckeyes that late in the season, I think you get written off, honestly.
Okay, so my thing is, if you, and I agree with what you're saying, but if you do lose to Ohio State, say by 14, and Notre Dame goes 10-2, I mean, would you put that Michigan team in over Notre Dame with 2 losses to Miami and Texas A&M?
Would I personally? To
be honest with you, that would be the perfect situation for the committee, because either way, a big brand's getting in. Where you run into your problems is, oh no, there's a 1-loss USF who went on the road and beat Florida, and let's say Florida finishes well after beating Texas, and Florida's like 8-4 or 9-3, and you got an 11-1 USF team that's not the G5 representative, right? You know, if UNLV goes undefeated, even if they beat Memphis, and now you're arguing an 11-1 USF with their only loss being to Miami, the number 1 team in the country, against a 10-2 or possibly even a 9-3 team down the road. That's what I'm kind of interested in.
Well, in that scenario, all 4 losses would be to quality opponents. I mean, Texas A&M right now, that loss, I mean, they look good, man. That loss look good. Miami is our number 1 team in the country. That loss is looking good. The Buckeyes aren't going to be stopping, and Michigan's other loss would be to Oklahoma.
Yeah.
I see them finishing strong. In that scenario, though, when would Notre Dame's last loss have occurred? In September.
Yeah. But who would Notre Dame have beaten, though?
Yeah,
That's,
I get it.
That's the thing. That's what it's going to come down to when you're dealing with 2 big brands where they don't have to pick because of the brand size. All right, last one before we get in the top 15. Arizona State.
Yeah.
Right? You know, you dropped that game at Mississippi State, which looks better. I think even though Mississippi State kind of got beat up in the second half against A&M, we know this is a different Mississippi State team. There's a couple teams I think you could throw in here. I think South Florida you could put there. I think Memphis you could put there as well. Tulane possibly. The good thing about Memphis and Tulane is they're going to play, well, shoot, I think and South Florida is going to play Memphis as well. I'm not sure when South Florida, if they play Tulane. I would think they would. But when you look at the rest of the Big 12, you know, obviously we're going to talk about Texas Tech, Baylor coming back and beating Kansas State late, keeping them in the hunt, David, a team that you had winning the Big 12. That was massive for Baylor this weekend. But Arizona State doesn't look like what we saw last year, but they're still quality. We know Jordan Tyson's a dog. We know Sam Levitt's a dog.
I really don't think Jordan Tyson gets talked about.
And again, he's a guy I think is going to go.
Mississippi State loss, I mean, look, like that's a good football team.
Yeah.
It doesn't look like
it's not that ugly. All right, well, let's get into the top 15 here. And let's start with a team that lost.
But quickly, before we do this, I want everybody, if you're watching, I just want to make sure to know there is one show that I knew of with Power Rankings last weekend that didn't have Penn State or
Texas in it, yes.
In the top 15.
That was us. And we caught some heat for it.
Yeah.
Well, to quote Major Payne, who's the dummy now? So at 15, Vanderbilt. Now, we had a pretty heated discussion about who should be at 15. This one waffled back and forth because you can make a case, again, for any of the honorable mention that we have out, could be in that 15 spot. But when you look at Vanderbilt, with what they did, obviously, at South Carolina, and then going to Bama, losing really by 9, Bama scored that late touchdown. But you could also make a great argument that Vanderbilt lost that game because Vanderbilt turned it over twice in the red zone.
Diego Pavia
turned it over twice in the red zone. But keeping them in the top 15, I believe their next game, they host LSU. Isn't that right? So I want to look at the rest of their schedule. I know we talked about it on the recap. I'm trying to remember off the top of my head. But Vanderbilt's a top 15 football team.
Yeah, well, we said last week if they beat Alabama, they need to be in the top 5, right? It felt like after their loss, they would be more in the honorable mention, top 20, but not top 15 to me. But then as we sat here and looked at it, I mean, again, I would have advocated more for Illinois if you hadn't lost by as many points as you did against Indiana. To some people, maybe that doesn't matter. Losing by 1 or losing by 53 is the same thing. It's not to me necessarily. I think Michigan has a strong case right there. Again, if they had looked just a little bit tighter and a little bit cleaner against Wisconsin, I think you could put them there.
Well, this is truly splitting hairs. Like this is splitting hairs down to the smallest, you know, hair molecule or whatever. Oppenheimer. Can you hear the music? All right, so Vandy's at 15.
And they got
LSU next.
At home. They have LSU at home, Missouri at home.
Do they have a bye week this week coming up, or is it?
So.
And then they have LSU at home.
This game,
that sounds right.
LSU game's October 18th.
Okay, so you get a bye after playing Bama. That always helps. All right, 14, a team that's just sneaking under the radar. We're talking about in the ACC about how Clemson's falling apart. Everybody's pointing and laughing at North Carolina like they're the fat kid at recess. Florida State's now got 2 losses. But Georgia Tech, Haynes King, Brent Key, Jamal Haynes, they've got some pieces. Escaped Wake.
Yeah.
All right, but sometimes you've just got to escape. I watched an Auburn Cam Newton team kick a game-winning field goal against Kentucky that year and go undefeated the rest of the way. But this Georgia Tech team, when you look, and can we pull up the rest of their schedule?
I got it right here.
This is the most intriguing thing. Go through the rest of their schedule, David, where they sit right now as well.
Yeah, look, and it's not pretty, and that's by design. They're not trying to look.
No, yeah, they're not. It's not a makeup contest.
Overtime win against Wake that you talked about on the road early in the year, beating Colorado 27-20. Now you got Virginia Tech at home. At Duke.
Yep.
I think that's where we're going to find out a lot. At Duke. Then you get Syracuse at home. Remember, starting quarterback Angeli is out, hurt. That's clearly been reflected with Syracuse. At NC State, at Boston College, Pitt at home, and then you get the Bulldogs, which I do believe is a neutral site.
It's in Atlanta.
Yeah.
It's in Atlanta. And what's crazy about it, if Georgia Tech handles business all the way up to Georgia, not only are you in the ACC championship game, because it don't matter at that point because Georgia's in the SEC, I think you're already in the college football playoff.
Yeah.
I don't think they're turning down. I mean, that's an 11-win team. And I'm saying if you lose to Georgia and then lose in the ACC championship game, I still think you're in the college football playoff, and you should be. But who does this remind you of up to this point last year? Kind of reminds me a little of Miami. Remember, Miami starts 9-0, then they drop a couple late. Georgia Tech's just got to handle business late, right? The schedules,
The situation reminds me of Miami, but the team's not even close.
And again, I think the schedule's better for Georgia Tech.
Sure.
Because remember, Georgia Tech was one of the teams that kept Miami out. I believe they beat Miami last year as well. All right, so we got Georgia Tech there at 14. At 13, we actually got, this is a run of 5 straight SEC teams. We've got Tennessee at 13. Let's pull up that schedule because you lose to Georgia. Obviously, Georgia loses to Bama at home. It still looks like a pretty decent loss, closer than I thought it was going to be before the season with all the Joey Aguilar drama. But Blaine, quickly, before we dive into Tennessee, just the rest of their schedule, can you just go through?
You have Arkansas at home,
Win.
at Alabama, at Kentucky, Oklahoma at home, New Mexico State at home, at Florida. Then you finish the year at Vanderbilt at home.
Control your destiny.
Yeah, you got everything in front of you right here.
You control your destiny. And again, looking around the rest of the SEC, when we do watch Georgia, who beat Tennessee, we know, at Tennessee and Neyland, I don't think there's a humongous gap between the best teams in the SEC and Tennessee. Would I be shocked if we look up and Tennessee's 10-2 and makes the college football playoff? I would not at all. I think they're quality ball club days.
It could go one of two ways. It could go that way for me, and that, look, the way they've been playing, they've overperformed my expectations with Joey Aguilar coming in so late there in the offseason. Or, after they beat Syracuse in the Aflac kickoff game, both of their Power 4 opponents have taken them to overtime. That's Georgia and that's Mississippi State. Could it go the other way where we see an 8-4 Tennessee team and there's some fall off here? I'm betting on the former because I think that Josh Heupel has this thing dialed in.
God, there's some huge games this weekend. Alabama at Missouri, Georgia at Auburn, Indiana at Oregon. And if you need tickets, Game Time is the place to go, David Cohn. Yes. You download the Game Time app, you use our code CRAIN, C-R-A-I-N, and you get $20 off your first purchase. And Blaine, with Game Time, you can actually see the panoramic view from your seat before you even buy it, so you can know what you're looking at.
I have to see the view before I even buy the ticket. And another great thing about Game Time is you can buy the ticket the minute the game kicks off.
For sure.
If you're getting there late, the kids are taking too long, you can just get right when you get there. If you're just there right before kickoff, you can still get a ticket.
It's the best deal in town. Download the Game Time app. Use that code CRAIN, C-R-A-I-N, for $20 off your first purchase, and enjoy the game with Game Time. Blaine, Tennessee, how do you feel?
Well, I feel good, but the schedule is going to be tough.
Well, I feel like it's like that pretty much for everybody.
Is a 9-3 team going to get in this year?
That's the question I've been asking since before the season.
I feel like Tennessee's slowly creeping up to that 9-3, and I guess it depends on what the 9-3 looks like, and especially with the teams you lost at the end of the year. Because if you lose, say you lose to Alabama.
They got Bama at home or on the road?
Out on the road.
Okay, on the road. So say you
lose
dropped
to Alabama on the road, and you lose to Oklahoma, but you beat Florida and Vanderbilt. So you're a 9-3 Tennessee team with losses to Georgia, Alabama, Oklahoma. We'll see what Florida is. I'm guessing they probably won't be ranked, and where Vanderbilt will be ranked at the end of the year if you beat them.
I don't know if you have a big enough win at that point at 9-3 to be able to get in when you get compared to some of the other 9-3 teams. But that Oklahoma game at home, we'll see the situation with Mateer obviously coming off that injury. That's going to be interesting to watch. But let's go ahead to number 12 here with LSU. Now, again, a lot of people have totally dropped LSU off the face of the earth after what happened a couple weeks ago, but they're still in the fight. You look at the rest of that schedule, and Blaine, I want to start with you. Can this LSU offense kind of get back to where they're dangerous and it's not so predictable? People talk about the Nussmeier injury, this, that, and the other, but there's more problems than just that.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think you have to be dangerous. You just have to be consistent, right? Yeah. And you have to figure out who you are. I think a lot of it, if you want to jump off the ship because you lost by 5 against Ole Miss on the road, who's a top 5 team in the country, you should have been on the ship in the first place.
100% agree.
To be honest, I think you can look at this LSU team and see the talent that they have. And at the end of the day, you bring back an experienced quarterback who was a Heisman preseason favorite walking into this year. So no, I do think there's time to fix it, especially with the defense being the way that it is. They're going to keep you in every game, every single week. There's too much talent on LSU, especially on the offensive ball, to be this inefficient. I think it falls on Joe Sloan. I think Brian Kelly will get them right, and I still believe in LSU, not because of the offense, but because of the defense this year. And who'd have thought you'd been saying that before the year started?
Well, David, to that point, again, if this was the LSU from years past, you have to score 35, 40 points a game to win it. That's not what you have to do this year. It's just really getting back to making smart decisions. And we talked about before the season, Nussmeier forcing the ball sometimes, over-anticipating, and you can say, well, they should run the ball more, they haven't run the ball well enough, well, Caden Durham's hurt, this, that, and the other. I mean, you're too old to be making the same mistakes over and over again. That's what it seems like when Nussmeier, like every third or fourth game.
Yeah, it's a little bit surprising, but if you ask me which side of the football I would want to be a lead on, it would always be the defensive
100%.
side, which is a complete inverse for them. What a great time for their bye week. After that loss to Ole Miss, they had their bye week. Now they're going to have a 3-game stretch before their next bye week. Remember, they always have a bye week before they play Alabama. And that 3-game stretch, the mentality just needs to be 1 week at a time. South Carolina at home. Can you beat a team that you're better than? At Vanderbilt. That now is a legitimate game and would be a good win. And then Texas A&M. This Texas A&M LSU matchup, I can't wait for that one. What a great opportunity for both teams in that one.
That game's going to be physical as hell. All right, another SEC team at 11. Let's go ahead and throw them up there. And boy, do they got a big one this weekend at home in Columbia, Missouri. We have two Columbias. We have a Columbia, South Carolina, Columbia, Missouri. The Missouri Tigers. And I tell you, this has probably so far been my biggest miss of the preseason. And I think a lot of people miss Missouri because Bo Prabula, we just hadn't seen it yet. And that was a huge question. We knew Hardy was talented. You know, we knew they're going to sit there and run outside zone. Had some questions about the defense, but we thought they'd be solid. Guys, you know, we've got an Alabama-Missouri preview that's going to come out here in the next half day or day. I'm looking at this Missouri football team, and they look complete as well. I'm not seeing – find me a weakness on Missouri's team right now.
No, I to be honest with you, I don't know if there really is one, but are they? I know they're good, but are they great? Right? Go look at their schedule right now. I think your best win is against
South Carolina.
South Carolina. I would say you could put South Carolina and Kansas against each other. But we're going to find out this weekend about Missouri. And one, I think Eli Drinkwitz doesn't get talked about enough from a play calling standpoint. And I think Missouri's front seven is extremely good on the defensive side of the ball. I want to see Bo Prabula go up against the best, right? And I think he will go up against one of the best this year in Alabama's defense with the way they've been looking lately. And that game is at Missouri, so it's going to be at home. This is the time Missouri can launch themselves into a different stratosphere.
For sure.
Right now.
Because go through the rest of their schedule. If Missouri wins this one.
I have it right here.
All right, go ahead.
They're another one of those teams I was talking about that their non-conference is out of the way. From here, it's SEC slate. Alabama at home, at Auburn, at Vanderbilt, second bye week. Then Texas A&M, Mississippi State, at Oklahoma, at Arkansas. Find a way to go 5-2.
Yeah, and you talk about cushion. You know, we always talk about cushion for the pushing. Well, it's true in football too. At the end of the day, if the more wins you rack up early, the more margin of error that you give yourself later in the season. That was one of the things that LSU fans were so worried about after losing to Ole Miss, is that your margin of error is getting smaller and smaller and smaller. But it would not shock me at all if we looked up now at the end of November and we're like, hey, Missouri, you got to put them in. You got to put them in at this point.
Yeah.
You beat Alabama, now it becomes, hey, you could win this league. Like, not just, hey, you could get there and possibly make the college football playoff. You could actually win the league. But a team that's going to have our say in the SEC as well as we keep this SEC train going at 10 is Georgia. Big win on the Plains at Auburn this weekend. We got a full preview of that one out. We put out Sunday. Make sure you check that out. I know you guys are enjoying it. How do we feel? And David, I want to start with you because this morning I went on the radio and I got asked, how do you just feel overall about Georgia? You know Georgia has a lot of talent. They recruit so well. The difference in this year's team is I don't see that Jalen Carter, I don't see that Jordan Davis on that defensive line that's able to wreck everything. They have a lot of really good players. I don't know if they have an elite player on that defensive line, which has made them a little bit more susceptible, not only to the run, but to the pass. I think sometimes people forget if your D-line's not great, that affects the pass as well as it affects the run. Not that Georgia's is bad, but I feel like Georgia is more vulnerable than they've been in a while on the defensive side of the ball.
Yeah, and look, I understand for Georgia fans it's frustrating to lose to Alabama yet again, but you know what? That's another good football team over there in Tuscaloosa. Yeah. Get over it. I watched the national champs last year go 10-2 in the regular season. I know for Georgia fans it can be frustrating watching Carson Beck lead Miami to a #1 ranking right now, and he's playing out of his mind. Get over it. Your quarterback, Gunnar Stockton, to me, is not the reason that you lost a football game or that you're, not playing up to this elite standard. No one in the country is right now. It's the era we live in. I still love the way they run the football. I think that's going to keep them in a lot of games. Honestly, I think it's what could help them if they find themselves in a rematch against Alabama in the conference championship. But again, 1 week at a time, you're going to face a team with their backs against the wall in Jordan-Hare. You got to win that one.
Blaine, you could make the argument that Georgia maybe outside of Ohio State. And again, Miami's playing so well right now. I think you already got to put him in this category. But does Georgia have the most potential to turn into an elite team when you look at everybody outside of Miami?
Well, sure, just because of the talent that you have there. I mean, go look at the 4-star and 5-star recruits that are walking around on the field for Georgia. This is why it's insane to see to me. Even you got to look at the Alabama win. I don't think their defense played awful.
No,
right? I mean, you gave up how many points in the?
But you know what I'm saying? Like they don't have that guy. You're like, oh, good God.
Yeah, no, the Jordan Davis and Jalen Carters aren't running around on Georgia this year, but they're still a Kirby Smart defense, and they're going to get better week in and week out. And I wouldn't be surprised. It must be it just must be so great to be upset about winning 10 games every year.
Yeah.
Right?
What a
great thing to be upset about. Look, I know it sucks losing to Alabama. Trust me, I'm an Auburn fan. I get it. But no one would be surprised sitting here if we look up down the road and Georgia's playing for the SEC championship.
Yeah, 100%. As long as Kirby's there, I think it's always going to be that way. But speaking of Bama, that's who we got at 9. And I can understand if some people are like, hey, you need to move them higher. Again, if they would have dominated Vanderbilt, like just dominated them, from start to finish, and it looked kind of like old Bama, I can understand moving them up more. They did beat Vanderbilt. They did some really good things. We talked about the Vandy self-inflicted wounds. I think 9 right now is the perfect spot for Alabama. And again, you're going to have chances because you go ahead and look right ahead of you. You play Missouri. You already played Georgia. You play LSU. You play Tennessee. And you still got Oklahoma. And South Carolina, too. Like this. Go to the Bama schedule.
I mean, yeah, I got it right here.
This one's like, that's why this Missouri game is massive.
You're at Missouri, obviously, this weekend. You have Tennessee at home.
Yep.
You're at South Carolina, LSU at home, Oklahoma at home, Eastern Illinois, and obviously you have the Iron Bowl at Auburn.
I mean, that ain't a walk in the park either, David. You talk about cushion. I mean.
Yes, you talk about the cushion, yeah. The number 9 ranking to me is not a reflection of what they did this past weekend. Yeah. It's a reflection of the 8 teams in front of you who are all undefeated. And they're really good teams. They didn't go anywhere. You're the first one-loss team, and you didn't get any help with Florida State losing the last 2, right? That loss could have looked better if Florida State was still undefeated and still in front of you. But Alabama has responded since that loss the only way they could respond. Focused, winning football games. I think they're going to continue to win football games. And then those other 8 teams in front of you, guess what? They're going to start losing some games, and that gives you an opportunity.
All right, so that's 5 straight SEC. Let's go back to the Big Ten. Number 8, Indiana. Huge game this weekend.
Yeah.
You want to talk about catapulting yourself up, but then if you lose, and I know optics matter. Like if you get your ass beat to death, that'll be one thing. But if you lose a 7-10-point game on the road at Oregon, after what we've seen Oregon be able to do, regardless of how bad the loss to UCLA looks from Penn State, Oregon looks pretty daggum good. I don't think Indiana's going to fall that far even if they do lose, and you still have a schedule in front of you that you could easily go 11-1. And this Indiana team, I'm telling you right now, and I'm going to see what you guys think. Cohen, I'm going to start with you as being a former Big Ten quarterback. This Indiana team is better than the one from last year.
Yes.
And I don't know how close it is, to be honest with you.
So the question is this Oregon team better than the team from last year? Because they were the only team in the Power 4 to go undefeated. Obviously, they got dealt a significant blow in the Rose Bowl with the Buckeyes en route to their national championship. But as far as I saw this morning, these 2 quarterbacks in this game are tied atop the Heisman board. Is that correct?
I believe that's
Mendoza and Dante Moore.
Right.
I saw them both tied for first. So we got an epic showdown at the quarterback position here where the winner of that will undoubtedly move to the top spot in terms of the odds.
Well, we are Fernando Mendoza truthers.
Yeah.
And we did that all offseason when he decided to go to Indiana. We're like, this... Believe me, we saw it at Cal. Oh, boy. Cal's got a string of quarterbacks running through there, too.
The one playing there right now is
good God.
Insane.
That dude's got a laser.
So from a Heisman standpoint, right now, Carson Beck and Dante Moore are both tied. I'm going on FanDuel. Plus 600. Then it's Ty Simpson, Jeremiah Smith, and Julian Sain and Fernando Mendoza are both tied at plus 1,400.
Well, again, the Heisman race is wide open, too, right now. That's a story for another day. All right, let's go to the Big 12 for number 7. Texas Tech, the Red Raiders.
Absolute wagon.
Look at it. You talk about complete. I mean, and again, Houston's still building with Willie Fritz. We saw the Wegman situation that happened there with Houston as well. But Texas Tech went on the road and manhandled Utah up front. That's all I need to see. And to me, when you look at the rest of their schedule, before the season, we're like, at Kansas State, at Utah, right? Go down at Arizona State, I believe as well. We're like, oh no, can they do it? Hell, I wouldn't put anything past Texas Tech, Blaine, running the table and being 12-0, and possibly maybe outside of Miami, being a 1 or 2 seed.
And this is what happens when the transfer portal works out for you.
Yeah,
right.
got that
Texas
bread.
Tech, I think number 1 or number 2 when it came to getting guys out of the transfer portal. And you hired, killers for mercenary for a year, and I love it. And if you look at their schedule, Kansas at home, winnable game. At Arizona State, I think this BYU at home game is going to be so interesting because right now BYU's undefeated. I don't know if they're really getting talked about enough.
I think they're going to kill them.
Do you think so? Well, the great thing about Texas Tech this year, and I think you have to give kudos to Joey McGuire, is they're legitimately good on the front seven.
Yeah, that's
their
the
front
difference
seven
in Texas
is legitimately good, and I think they've covered every single football game this year. They were one of my locks last week, and it was an absolute easy cover versus Houston. Just what a turnaround. What a turnaround for Texas Tech. And to be honest with you, Texas Tech, if they run this table, you're going to be sitting there talking about a bye in the first round.
100%.
They're an elite football team. I'm just going to say it.
Well, and David, they have two, again, give Joey McGuire credit. Hammond comes in against Utah, looks great because Morton's hurt. Well, they ran Morton out there against Houston because he was the starter. They got 2 quarterbacks that can do it. They got 2.
Any way you want it, Texas Tech is giving it to you. I was late to the party. I thought they were a year away from this sort of dominance. Yeah. Everyone talking about the Texas oil money. I don't want to. We've talked ad nauseum about the Utah win and how impressive that was in many ways. I don't want to gloss over this Houston win. Yeah. That team was undefeated. Willie Fritz can coach, man.
Yeah,
Connor Wegman can play quarterback. They were undefeated, and even if they weren't great, that's still an in-state rival. Texas Tech going over to Houston.
On the road.
You handled them on the road 35-11. Now you're going to get Kansas, then at Arizona State, and we find out a lot.
You beat Arizona State on the road, you can go ahead and start wrapping the presents. I'd go ahead and start buying the tickets, which, hell, at this point, Cody Campbell could buy all the tickets for everybody at Texas Tech and still not make a dent into his funds. All right, let's stay in the state of Texas. Okay, for number 6, Texas A&M. No, not Texas. Hell no. There's every team in Texas except Texas in here. How do we feel about A&M?
You gotta give them credit.
You gotta, yes, you gotta give them credit. We were high on A&M, obviously, this offseason. To me, though, out of all the top 10 teams that we've done so far, Georgia, Alabama, Indiana, Texas Tech, I'm the least sure about A&M, and it's because the offense has been so inconsistent. You look at that second half A&M offense versus the first half against Mississippi State, it's hard for me to trust lack of consistency when we're getting to the top of the top in college football. But hey, they're undefeated, control their destiny.
Look.
It is what it is.
And we sit here and say this on the show. Great teams know how to win in multiple
ways. Yeah.
Right? And that's one thing was a big bugaboo for Texas A&M. They would find a way to lose football games. That's not this team this year. Obviously, you beat Auburn 16-10. No one could put points up. You beat a Notre Dame team 41-40. And then you play a Mississippi State team that beat Arizona State, who took Tennessee into overtime. Mm-hmm. And not only you beat them, but you come in that second half and you kick their ass. It looked like a Mike Elko coach team. Right? This just feels like a different vibe for me for Texas A&M.
Well, you're coming through.
Right? It's just like it's a Texas A&M team this year I feel like I could trust. Yeah. This is the year's team that not any other A&M. If it was last year's A&M, we're sitting here talking about the top 10. No, I wouldn't trust them. But this year's team, this is a Texas A&M team. I would let take I don't even have one, but let them take my daughter out on a date. I trust you.
The whole team.
You were raised right?
Yeah,
the whole team. Like a Texas A&M team.
Wow.
Okay, no, I'm not.
Dang,
I was going to say something.
No, don't get us in trouble.
I think you know where I'm going to go with this.
Yeah.
But no, I trust this Texas A&M team.
They're a problem, dude. They're a problem.
Concepcion and Craver just by themselves. You can, Marcel Reed knows where to go in the scramble drill. This year, the scramble drill with A&M is a really, really, really dangerous. And I think that's the way that Marcel can become more efficient, right, is on those improvised plays. He's 17-37 at Notre Dame, but the ones he hits are huge plays. And you see that kind of going over and over again, but it's his legs. That's the difference.
And we'll find out this weekend really about that defense up front. They're playing Florida.
Yeah, and that unit took a step forward against Mississippi State.
Sure. I
had called Mississippi State in the upset there. So far, A&M undefeated. In the next 7, though, 4 are on the road.
So is Florida on the road?
4 are on the road.
So they get Florida at home.
Yeah, Florida at home, at Arkansas, at LSU, at Missouri, South Carolina home, Sanford, obviously at Texas.
Guys, it's actually the 1-year anniversary of my mother-in-law's unfortunate passing. But I tell you, Reed, my wife, was her only child, and she took care of everything she needed to take care of, which, again, mourning the loss of someone is terrible, but getting your affairs in order it's a huge deal, and we're so thankful that she did that. And it's something that, everybody needs to do. And that's where our friends over at Ethos come in. They're an online platform that make getting life insurance fast and easy to protect your family's future in minutes, not months. They've made getting life insurance easier than ever before with their streamlined 100% online process. Their flexible coverage allows you to protect your family with up to $3 million in coverage, with some policies starting as low as $2 per day when billed monthly, making comprehensive life insurance accessible and affordable. Talk about peace of mind. That's it right there. No wonder 3 million families have completed their applications with Ethos that they trust to help them find the right coverage. So protect your family with life insurance. Get your free quote at ethos.com/booster. That's ethos.com/booster. Well, it's, Florida, this team's going to be confident. That's for sure. And you talk about flipping a season around. They're going to go into Kyle Field. And if that first half offense shows up against this Florida defense, shout out to Jeff Levy and what they got to do.
You're going to have to beat Florida.
Yeah. I'm just going to hand it to you. All right, let's go to number 5, Oklahoma. Here's my question. David, I want to start with you. They've got Red River this weekend, right? We just did a preview on that. We dropped a couple hours before we dropped this show. If Oklahoma loses a close game to Texas without John Mateer, how far do you think they should fall in the top 10, if at all?
Well, it'll be circumstantial depending on what the other teams do. But the bigger question is, how will the College Football Playoff Committee view that later in the year? Because we're 2 months away from Selection Sunday. 100%. I've watched them penalize Florida State when their quarterback got hurt. 100% it will be a topic of conversation if this comes down to Oklahoma versus some other comparable team when John Mateer was out in Red River. But the bigger question to me is, can Oklahoma beat Texas without John Mateer? Because it's the defensive unit that Brent Venables now, with calling plays on that side of the ball, they rank number 1 or number 2 in almost every defensive category, not just across their league, but across the country. Arch Manning, obviously dealing with some confidence issues, but he is still very capable, has all the physical tools to make every throw. He can run the football. Steve Sarkisian, still one of the best play callers in the world. Texas, Oklahoma, I think we're going to get a great edition of Red River this weekend.
And again, I would not be shocked if this game ended up 13-10. Mm-hmm. I'm just looking at the Texas offensive line and what happened to them against Florida. Well, Oklahoma's rolling in here with some cats that can do it too.
Yes.
And Brent's going to have you schemed up and dialed up. You talk about a battle of the minds.
And you talking about a hungry unit, Texas on defense, after what DJ Lagway did to him.
100%. And again, we'll see with Mateer. You're not going to know until they step on the field. I'm telling you right now, because I wouldn't tell your ass either way. There'd be a whole lot of questionables. There wouldn't be a probable. There wouldn't be a doubtful. It would be questionable. That's where I would leave it at. All right, something that isn't questionable is this Ole Miss team pretty damn good. Let's go ahead up to number 4 here with Ole Miss. Again, a bye week last week after taking care of LSU at home. And we talk about A&M and how much do you trust them? Are they as consistent as some of these other teams? I know Ole Miss is playing a backup quarterback, which he's the starter now. Say what you want. Trinidad Chambliss, the guy going forward.
Yeah.
If it's me and Lane Kiffin. Can this defense for Ole Miss, because I thought that was the difference in them elevating the past couple years, is their front seven. Can this Ole Miss defense playing continue to show up with the schedule that they have left? I'll never worry about a Lane Kiffin offense. That's one thing I don't worry about. Can this defense play well enough to win some of these games they have later?
I had the same feeling that you have with Texas A&M.
About Ole Miss? That's understandable.
And I'll always trust a Lane Kiffin coached offense. I always trust a Lane Kiffin coached defense. It's just I don't know how
a Lane Kiffin coached defense?
A Lane Kiffin coached quarterback, excuse me. Yeah. I don't know how much, if it was Ole Miss's defense that really showed out, or is this LSU's offense that bad?
Yeah.
Right? And, obviously you're not going to find out this weekend against Washington State. You'll kill them. That game will be 70-24 or something like that. But then you're on the road at Georgia.
Whew.
Then you're on the road at Oklahoma, South Carolina at home, Citadel, Florida, and at Mississippi State. It's just, I think the Ole Miss defense is good, but I don't think they're as good as people are, they're not as good as people give them credit for. I think once you play Georgia, we'll really find out, and I think Georgia's going to have a little bit different of medicine to turn around and handing the ball off, and then we're really going to find out about Ole Miss. But Ole Miss I trust them the least out of the top 5.
I think most people, David, I think some Ole Miss fans that are rational would tell you that same thing. I don't think they expected to be here at this point. It's now, can you keep elevating as you go? Because it's a race to 10. It's a race to 10 wins. When you look at the rest of the schedule, you brought up Georgia, you bring up Oklahoma, you can get to 10, you're in.
Well, the most impressive thing for me for Ole Miss when they beat LSU was the defense stopping the run. That was incredible, the way that they responded. Trinidad Chambliss able to get some important snaps and key moments at home. Now my question is, can he go on the road and do it? Because like you said, at Georgia and at Oklahoma back-to-back weekends? Then we'll find out.
Well, I want to see if somebody will commit to the run against Ole Miss.
Georgia will.
Oh, that's what I'm saying.
Georgia,
that was the biggest knock against LSU is why. And again, if you go back and look what Ole Miss was doing, especially in the second half, they were playing drop coverage a lot.
Yeah.
They were daring you to run the ball, and LSU didn't do it.
Well, and I don't think Ole Miss's defense doesn't have to be fantastic, right? They don't have to be a top 5 unit, a top 10 unit. They just have to be good.
Just be top 25.
Right, just be good. Your offense is that good with Trinidad Chambliss and Lane Kiffin, the way they scheme up. I don't think their running back gets talked about enough. Really, the way they scheme on offense kind of reminds me, obviously, the LSU team back in the day with Joe Burrow and them. I'm not saying Ole Miss is that. Right, but with the talent they had on offense, their defense wasn't great that year. It was good. Ole Miss, if you find a good defense, you're going to be making the playoffs. You're going to be a dangerous football team.
Yeah, in a 4-quarter game, Lane Kiffin with an offense that can hurt you, they can beat anybody at the end of the day. But number 3, and this is where it gets really, really interesting, Oregon. Let's go ahead and throw them up there. I've seen some people have Oregon as high as number 1. Mm-hmm. And you know what? Okay, I think you can make a logical argument, even after Penn State lost to UCLA, because if you ask James Franklin, Oregon really beat him twice, even though we know that's not the case.
Should we give him an extra win?
Yeah, I'm so impressed when I look at Oregon, because when we talk about the disappointments of Penn State, who returned all this production, the disappointment of Clemson, who led the world in returning production in college football, Oregon is doing it not only with the brand new quarterback in Dante Moore, but with a freshman running back, a freshman wide receiver, and watching that defense elevate to play Penn State. I questioned them. I questioned their manhood. They proved me wrong 100%, and I'm happy for Dan. But this Oregon team, and again, we talk about the schedule, and this was the big thing. If they could get past Penn State, you look at the rest of the road, and it's about as clear sailing as you're going to get in the Big Ten from a schedule standpoint, at least in my opinion.
And I continue to hear Big Ten coaches complain about having to travel multiple time zones either to the West Coast or from the West Coast. Who didn't complain? I didn't hear Dan Lanning say a thing about it.
Didn't say a word. They just showed up and whooped your ass.
He just said 110,000 whiteout. Okay, we're going to take this win.
Yeah.
We're going to come here. This is our stadium now. They left a little rubber ducky on the field. After, I don't know if you saw that or not. They left a rubber duck on the field, went back to Eugene and said, this is our house now. So...
Well, look, some teams make plays, some make excuses.
Is Oregon the best job in the country?
I think you can make it.
Nike money or oil money?
Same thing.
Or whatever Larry Ellison money.
Well, let's be honest. Let's be honest. Even at Oregon, and again, they have unbelievably passionate fans, and the standard there has really been raised. I don't think people are getting super pissed about going 9-3 compared to the way they're getting pissed about it at A&M or Texas or some of these other spots. So, it's almost like a happy medium of we're the richest, but we're also somewhat lenient.
Well, I understand that Nike money can help you get the recruits there you want. I still think there is something to the close proximity of talent, which is going to remain in the South to me. And you're still talking about 18-year-old kids who are leaving home for the first time. I think there are better jobs, but Oregon's a great one.
Yeah. We're, again, talking about splitting hairs. All right, number 2. And this gets in kind of in closing here again. Make sure you're subscribed if you're not. We want to know in the comments what you think about the top 15 that we have. Ohio State. And this is... because this is a snapshot in time of where we sit right now, if this was a projection, if we were saying where we think teams end up, I think you can make a really good case for Ohio State having the most potential that isn't playing their best yet. Now, defensively, they're incredible. Offensively, they know they're incredible on defense, and they're making it very easy for Julian Sand, but you see the talent when the ball comes out of his hand, and he's only getting better. And just like last year, we may be sitting here at the end of the year like, Ohio State's the best team in the country. I think they have that type of potential. But there's no way right now, Blaine, that I think you can put anybody above Miami.
What ranked win does Ohio State have?
Yeah.
Well, now, yeah, because Texas is out of the top 25. But I think Brian Hartline knows, right? And I think kudos to him. His first year, the offensive coordinator at Ohio State. Look, when it comes to Julian Sand, you got to crawl before you walk.
Yeah.
Right? You got to walk before you run. And the thing about it, once you learn how to run, you're going to be Usain Bolt sprinting.
Yeah, because you got some guys running around.
Hey, what a job. What a job to have.
Yeah.
Not only you're the quarterback at Ohio State when it comes to Julian saying, but you get to throw to the Avengers.
Yeah.
On the outside. You get to throw the Transformers with Shia LaBeouf in it.
And then your defense comes
not
out
that Mark Wahlberg stuff.
Yeah, no.
And then your defense is on the field, and you have one of the best players in Caleb Downs. You're only getting better with the talent that they have. I mean, it's just, I think Miami's right at number one because at the end of the day, you do have 3 ranked wins. And Ohio State at number 2. And Ohio State, the thing about it is like you're still learning, right, on the offensive side, and you're still killing people.
Yeah.
So, right, you killed Minnesota.
They had no, that was DOA.
So I think right now, I'm fine with Ohio State at 2.
Yeah.
I'm fine with it.
Speaking of basketball, Cone, there's a saying, and Blaine brought it up, is you don't want to peak too early. I think we've given so many positives to Miami. Like, in my mind, I'm like, what is there negative to say? And it's a high-class problem as a fan of a team when the only thing I can think to say is, are y'all playing too good too soon? Like, that's the only, because I watch Miami, it's like Oprah throwing out free stuff to the crowd. Oh, you want great defense? Here, you can have it. You want great offense? You can have it. Hey, our kicking problem's fixed. Here we go. It just, maybe the only slightly negative is Mario Cristobal time management still looks a little bit iffy there in the fourth quarter, but when you're beating people's ass so bad it doesn't matter.
No, it doesn't.
You can't screw it up. But I mean, if Miami's playing better than anybody in the country in all 3 phases, like complimentary football-wise, right?
For the Buckeyes, it's important for people out there to remember this is a program that lost 14 guys to the NFL a year ago, lost both coordinators, okay? Your offensive coordinator to the NFL, your defensive coordinator to an in-conference rival in Penn State, who Nico Iamaleava just shredded to death.
Yeah, he did spy him.
The only reason right now that Miami is ahead of you is because they've gotten more opportunities, which I don't think any Buckeye fan in the world is going to complain about that. You're going to get your shots, including this weekend. We find out so much more right now about the Big Ten a week from now after we get to see Indiana go to Eugene and we get to see the Buckeyes and Illinois play this weekend.
Man, I cannot wait. Again, we've been, pretty freaking close in these power rankings, these top 15 that we've put out. But the movement you're going to see coming up this weekend is going to be crazy. And speaking about crazy, we always have to react to the AP poll every week because, again, there's some anomalous, contradictory thing that happens. When you look this weekend, again, if you're on audio, you can go look it up. You do have South Florida in there at 24, which I don't mind. Memphis
not
in there at
terrible.
23, don't mind. This, I think, because we bash them when it's bad, I think this is about as close as they've gotten to being pretty correct. Because, I mean, how can we sit here and argue with this when the only difference, really, in your top, their top 10 and ours is at number 1 and number 2. We have Miami number 1. They have Ohio State number 2. Everything else, I mean, we've got Oklahoma, I believe, in front of A&M, but it's only by 1 or 2.
Vandy at 20 is an absolute atrocity. I mean, we go ahead and talk about that. Notre Dame at 16, slowly hanging around.
Well, I'll say this. For the argument of consistency, they've loved Notre Dame even when they were 0-2. So at least they're consistent. They keep moving them up. I don't think they should be 16. But, David, I really, outside of that, especially now that Illinois handled business against USC and Purdue, I don't hate it.
No. And, I mean, it has helped the AP from their Notre Dame rankings these past few weeks that both Miami and Texas A&M continue to look really good. I guess my biggest thing is Florida State still at 25.
Yeah.
I mean, you got to move them out. But, again, I like our rankings a little bit better, I will say.
I do, too.
So, Blaine, our rankings
rare
are
AP
better.
pulled up. I think it's a rare AP poll.
Yeah, getting that many people, especially when half of them don't even know what they're looking at.
I don't know how
watch the
Ohio
games.
State's number 1 and Miami's number 2, but I guess that's a conversation for another.
And again, we kind of talked about that a little bit as far as looking forward as opposed to a snapshot right now. And I think you can get 75 different people from the AP poll telling you something different. But we want to know in the comments what you think about our rankings, what you think about the AP poll as well. Any parting shots, guys? Anything
I can't
here?
wait for this weekend.
I know. Make sure you check out our Red River preview that dropped. The Red River Shootout, that is, preview that dropped earlier this morning. We got an Auburn, Georgia preview out. We've got Bama, Missouri coming out, Michigan, USC coming out. Check out our recap and all the things. We appreciate you being here and like the chances of me not wanting the weekend to be here right now.
Come on.
I don't want to wait. I'm sick of getting a rawhide wallet. I want Hulk hands, and so do you. We're going. Gone.